We are talking with Mandisa, whose music you already love, but now she's written a book called Out of the Dark, My Journey Through the Shadows to Find God's Joy. How do you feel being an author? I guess it's the first thing.
It is, yeah. I actually wrote a book right after I got off of American Idol. And so now I'm a two-time author.
Oh,
That feels good.
yeah, you're in the experience table now.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. What was the story that led you to write this book, Out of the Dark?
It really came out of what I call the deep dark. That was probably the season that was the worst for me in battling with depression. It was right after my song Overcomer, my album Overcomer was released. That song was really inspired by my friend Keisha. She was pregnant when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so, praying with her and for her through all of this, and then feeling so relieved when her son was born and he was perfectly healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But she had 1 year with him before she passed on. And that I didn't deal with the grief. I had just spiraled into a dark place that I was in for 2 years. And realizing this is something that I have wrestled with for a long time. And even now, the last couple of years with the pandemic, with isolating, it's so easy for me to go back there. And it's such an issue, I think, that is affecting the body of Christ, the whole issue of mental health. And being able to talk openly about it, I think is really important for us. And so wanted to write this book because I think it's an issue that we can't ignore any longer.
What was the turning point for you?
Well, it was a progression of things. When I came out of that season, it was in 2016. And my album I released in that year was called Out of the Dark as well. And a lot of the songs really speak to that issue of depression and so many of the lessons that I learned. And so it began with talking about that album and in concerts when I would share about depression and in interviews, and I would hear from people that would say, I'm so glad that I'm not the only one, and being able to talk or to hear somebody talk about this that I see is always smiling and has so much joy, it made me realize that I'm not the only one who wrestles with these things. That's really what began my understanding of how many people are struggling with depression and anxiety. And over the years, recognizing that it's such an issue, it's such a subject that I think we don't talk a lot about in the body of Christ. And maybe we think that we should have more faith and that, I don't know, maybe we're not strong enough Christians, but recognizing this has been something I see when I read the Bible, a lot of people wrestle with. I see David, so many of the Psalms that he wrote show how he wrestled with his thoughts and tormented by, dark spirits. And the way that he did come out of it was through worship and through, being with people to help lift him out. And so I think understanding how powerful it is to be open about these issues, powerful for other people, but it also takes it out of the dark and into the light. It allows God to speak to those things as well in my own life.
I read somewhere that you were talking about a verse that has come into my head at times when I've been depressed that has really made a big difference. I don't think I can even express how much it has. And that's the simple place where God says to the Apostle Paul, my grace is sufficient for you.
Yeah.
And when you think about that and the verses around it and really kind of internalize what it means, for me anyway, it puts a lot of things in a lot of perspective, and it has genuinely helped.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that whole passage where Paul is talking about this thorn in his flesh. And I used to not enjoy the fact that we don't really know what that thorn was, but now I kind of like it because I think it speaks to any sort of a thorn, like anything that we are pleading with God to take away. For me, I can say, yes, this battle with depression, also my weight, that feels like a thorn in my flesh. It feels like something that I keep revisiting over and over, but recognizing that what God would say to Paul, even when he didn't answer, the prayer and the way that Paul wanted it to by taking away that thorn, what he says is, my grace is enough. Like, I am with you, even if that thorn is plaguing you. And so recognizing, yes, sometimes God will, make the thorn go away. And sometimes, he'll allow the storm to cease. But sometimes he lets the storm rage on and he calls you to walk on the water. And so for me, that is, I'm going to keep asking God to take this away from me in the same way that Jesus said, let this cup be taken away. But I also recognize that even if he doesn't, even if the thorn stays, God's grace is enough. And it's so much easier to say that than to actually walk it out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's in walking it out that you are able to find the peace of God that passes understanding. And when we say that, it means that we're not always going to understand. I don't understand it all, but I know that he's there with me in the middle of it all. And eventually when I see him face to face, I will have full understanding. For right now, I just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other.
So one of the things that people have to deal with is that not only is depression or anxiety or shame, not only are those things hard to deal with, there's a stigma that comes with them. And that's, I guess maybe that's where shame becomes an issue for a lot of people. How do you let go of shame without picking it back up again?
I wish I could tell you like that I have done it so well. I pick it up often, but one of the things that I am learning is that, as many times as I pick it up, I can put it back down again. And as many times as I struggle or as I fall, there's a song on my Out of the Dark album called Keep Getting Up. A wise man may fall many times, but he keeps getting back up. And so as long as God is still writing my story, as long as I'm still here and, I still have breath in my body, God is not done with me yet. And so I try to give myself grace with that. He's not done. I'm still a work in progress. And he's making something beautiful. And so many times the scars and the hard times, it really helps to teach us lessons that we can't just learn when everything is going well. So I'm still here and God is still doing a work in my life.
Yeah, awesome. That is so much. You have just brought so much joy to so many people, including and particularly my wife. I just thought I should tell you that. She would love to be your best friend. And so I just want to thank you for what you do, because your music is infectious, and it sort of just exudes this joy, and you make a big difference to a lot of people.
Thank you. That's so encouraging. Thank you very much. And please thank your wife for me.
You bet I will. Mandisa, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
You too.